No. Alright guys, thanks for joining us on episode 8 of the Ethereal Podcast. I'm Dom.
I'm Saige.
And on this episode, we are going to discuss substances and the overuse of them. We're going to touch on the effects that they have on the body and mental health. And we're also going to touch a little bit on the spiritual ego. So, can't wait for that part.
Yeah,
That's going to be good.
always so fun.
So, kick it off. Oh, there are just so many substances.
So many. Pretty much everything is a substance in this realm because we're a magnet, so everything's a substance we're taking in. But there's also just a lot of if you go to just the substances you're ingesting, I guess.
All right.
I mean, even though this is why I get too, because I'm like, well, everything, like food and drink is substance too. So but okay, we're just talking about
let's talk about drugs.
Yeah, nicotine, marijuana, alcohol, MDMA, LSD,
all kinds of things. So, we can talk about the legal ones first.
That's fair.
The worst one, in my opinion, alcohol being legal. That one's a rough one.
Alcohol is so interesting. Yeah, what's so interesting to me about alcohol with someone with medical knowledge and someone who was on a detox unit. I've seen a lot of people that were on some pretty heavy substances at heavy amounts, but their after effects were so even the one they were bad, but in comparison to alcohol, insane. Because of it actually affects so many different organs.
Right.
Whereas most things, it's only affecting one particular, it's really attacking mostly one organ or one particular thing. Whereas alcohol is attacking so many at once. And that's the issue with alcohol. And, I drink alcohol, so no judgmentos there. But
I definitely do not drink as often as I used to. Because I've learned quite a bit about alcohol over the last, 6 months, about truly how bad it is for your mental health and your physical health.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably consume alcohol a handful of times, a year probably.
That's great for you. I'm not that person. So
I used to not be that person
girlies,
for several years.
Girlies,
I had my time.
And boys won't work. All right, everybody out there that is not like that, I'm more ready than that. But I'm still not as much as I used to. But I didn't start till I was 21. I feel like that's why I overdid so much.
See, I started drinking. I literally got expelled from 8th grade for bringing alcohol to school.
You were one of those hoodlums.
I was not one of those hoodlums, okay?
Bring alcohol to school.
I was after that, okay? So listen to
This
this.
is the origin story, the villain story.
I was a sheltered little Catholic girl.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I really did. I was bullied for a lot of my life, so I really didn't have many friends. And the middle school, junior high that I went to ended at 7th grade. So, right.
That's weird.
So I had to transfer to a high school that had 8th grade.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's weird. So you were at a new school?
Yes, a new school for 8th grade, no friends. Transferred there with one friend who was like a backstabbing hoe.
We hate those.
So I became friends with a group of people and these girls. And they all
were they the bad girls?
Okay. Yeah, they dyed their hair and they wore the thick black eyeliner and really I was just attracted to them because I'm a freaking
When I was younger, side note to that, it literally is when I was younger, in high school, somebody said something to me, and I remember outwardly saying I was only friends with attractive people, and they're like, "That's so rude." I was like, "I don't mean it that way. I just end up only talking to attractive people, and they're like, "Are you attracted to all your friends?" And I was like, "Maybe." I was like, "Maybe I'm talking to them because I think they're hot, and so I just have hot friends." Well, I guess I don't think about it. I'm just like, in hindsight, I was always like had hot
So do
friends.
you not make friends that you're not attracted to?
That's a whole different topic.
Anyway,
At 26, not really.
back to the story. So I get in with these pals, and like they all smoke cigarettes and they smoked weed and obviously drank alcohol. So I would like steal my parents' alcohol from the house, and at this point, the alcohol I got expelled with was my cousin lived with us at the time, and it was his alcohol, and he like rarely ever drank it, so I would just take a little at a time, and I literally knew nothing about alcohol, so I mixed like Kahlua with
You would take a little bit of different ones
with Bacardi,
ew,
and one other alcohol in a bottle. It was horrible. Like it was like a toxic mix.
I guess it's okay, you're just like, you'll give me
yeah.
You're young.
You know, and I also had like a homemade pipe that I had made out of like a socket with like a pen and some duct tape. Yeah, girl. So
You're so cool.
but someone ratted on me. Someone ratted on me and was like, yo, this chick's got alcohol, so that the vice principal like pulls me into the back room, and I was literally so sheltered that it didn't even occur to me that I was gonna get in trouble for being like having alcohol. Like I was like that I didn't
even like think that was like
no, I had no idea. So I got expelled for that. So I started drinking at like 14. And like, yeah, I was taken out of school for a year, and homeschooled. That didn't really.
I was homeschooled for middle school. I didn't,
yeah.
I ended up doing other things.
But after that, I definitely dove into the world of using like definitely marijuana and drinking alcohol, and like we also even smoked the fake stuff. Yeah, the synthetic.
So bad for you. It's so crazy that it was legal.
Yeah,
it blows my mind. Like I didn't even think about like the synthetic substances. Those should just be left alone.
Those are
all
toxic trash. Anything that is synthetic,
it's just chemicals every time.
I don't do that one at all. Exactly. I do not.
So, but like the issue with like the synthetics is that they're always just like fucking chemicals, and they do so much damage, especially with the weed. It drives things. I'm just like, so you can have the plant that doesn't cause these insane side effects, but instead we'll make it legal to have this like herb sprayed down with wasp spray and chemicals.
People that have died smoking that.
I know a lot of people who was like in the ICU had all these like insane things. People like just had like insane hallucinations, like scary stuff. I'm just like, no.
Right. One of my friends actually woke up with his friend dead on top of him after they stop your reactions. I don't mean to laugh. It's not funny at all. God, yeah.
I just did not expect that.
He literally, still to this day, though, can't smoke weed. Regular weed. Like, he has panic attacks.
Yeah, I believe that.
I mean, I would too. Like,
yeah, it's very, like...
So, stay away from the synthetic stuff, guys, please. It's terrible. Don't do that.
Synthetic stuff is, like, literally, I would rather you go drink bleach. Literally. It's less damage to the body, honestly.
Probably.
There are people who drink bleach. You shouldn't. Don't drink bleach. But the PSA, don't drink bleach.
But you could argue that, alcohol is close to.
Well, if you want to be really technical, alcohol is just poison. And that's what, in my opinion, makes it really humorous to me, because you feeling drunk is your body. That feeling of drunkenness, that's what poisoning is. Like, you're like, oh my god, I'm so drunk right now. Your body's poisoned.
Right.
Like, you're literally like...
If you go to another level, it's alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, it's like...
And if you don't throw up, because if you're combining it with, like, cocaine, let's say...
it's like if you don't puke...
cocaine will numb your gag reflex, so that you can't throw up when you're drinking. So if you combine the two, it's actually really dangerous, because if you drink to the level of alcohol poisoning, and you're also using cocaine, you can't throw up, and then you have to literally go to the hospital and get your stomach pumped.
And what being on that, what's really, I think, problematic with that is that a lot of people do like cocaine with alcohol. And because people will be like, oh, I have a little bit of cocaine and I'm not that drunk anymore. I'm a good time. So, oh, you're sober when you do cocaine. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm so drunk that I do some cocaine. I feel more sober. So you're more inclined to drink, right? So before you know, you have to really keep like tabs on yourself because, especially when you're combining substances, you start losing time concept because you have to be like, how much have I drank?
Mm-hmm.
Because like you'll get in a loop and not realize how much you've drank because you're not feeling it.
Been there, done that. Speaking from experience.
I definitely drank way too much many times, but my heavy alcohol usage was before I really did any other substances with that look, so I just puked everything. I just had a lot of puking.
I had never puked from alcohol until I was 21. Okay, right, 14 to 21. I had my grandma's. I had my grandma's Polish genes, still do, and like she's crazy. She can still drink like 2 bottles of wine and like up and down a flight of stairs.
If I had 2 bottles of wine, I'd be puking.
Yeah. So I had never thrown up, and then my 21st birthday came around, and like I didn't really eat or drink because I had worked a shift all day at a new job, and I was going ham for my birthday, and like next thing I know, dude, I threw up like 12 times. I could not make it. I had to postpone my birthday dinner with my family.
You had to postpone the dinner. You're telling me you got that drunk and just puking before dinner?
No. I got that.
Was dinner the next day?
Yes, it was the next day and that evening. And I was so hungover the next day I was still throwing up. I could barely get out of bed. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's rough.
And then Brittany broke up with me the next day. We got back together 6 months after that. Now we're engaged. But yeah, that needed to happen. That was where that during that 6-month period is literally when my spiritual awakening happened. So it's cool.
Yeah, things happen the way they are supposed to, in the way things will. Let me correct this. People hate whenever a lot of people don't like that statement. Things happen the way they're meant to. Because they're like, well, there's a lot of bad things that happen. Well, duality, but let's pretend that doesn't exist right now. Because of duality, bad things have to happen as well as good things. However, if you forget about duality, you don't believe in that. It's okay, it's not that everything has to happen then, but it's that everything will work itself out.
Right.
No matter what happens, the universe divinely is a math equation. It has to solve it. It will never stop. It's math. It's like a big fucking computer of like rhythmics. Like it's going to keep going.
Big Minaj's.
Yeah, it's like it's never going to end. So any moment that something happens, bad or good, it's going to keep going.
Right.
So if it's in a bad place, like it's going to figure itself out. So ultimately, everything happens for a reason because it gets you to where you are next, and you don't like. There's nothing you do that later on you'd be like, I should have never done that because you wouldn't be you without that experience.
Right.
So it's like you have
to
like
regret anything ever. That's not.
No,
I don't really a feeling that
I tried to make myself feel regret because I don't know. Everyone was like, I regret this, I regret that. So I was like, am I supposed to regret like things? And I felt bad. Anyone out there that was me, I was like, am I supposed to regret like every bad thing I've done? Like, I wish I didn't do it, but it's not that I'm like, God, I regret this, and it really hangs on me. Like people be like, this, I did this 10 years ago, and I still regret it. Still, I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, I wish it didn't happen, but like it did, and we passed it. And
I learned from it. Like I literally can find something to learn from like every bad.
They're all lessons.
Part of duality. Like they're all lessons, exactly. But anyways, back to our so let's touch on like. I guess we can dive into. Well, no, I don't want to say that because I don't want to define like the rave community just as drugs, but like.
Yeah,
there is a lot of drug use in the rave community.
I feel like it's the same as like.
But there are tons of sober people.
Yeah, there's tons of sober people. Just like in normal life, there are tons of people strung out and you just don't know.
Right.
The difference with the rave community versus a group of people at a random, at least if you go to a random concert, most of those people probably fucked up, but you're not really aware of what it is. Yeah, you're like, you assume they're drunk, and if not, you don't know.
Right.
But in the rave community, it's kind of, people are very open. So people are very open about what they're on, how it feels, what they're doing.
And even the acts
are very, yeah, there's a lot more.
Mostly psychedelics.
yeah, it's like there's a lot. It's a very psychedelic rich environment. There's always visuals for the people that are tripping. So it's like it's very like not encouraged per se, but it's very like it lines up
Yeah.
where you could see how people would want to trip there.
And that's where like a lot of mine kind of started too, like my overuse of drugs. And I always said, I was like, yeah, I'm like never been addicted to anything. I don't have an addictive personality, which I do believe that I don't, because I am just so much self-control when it comes to that kind of stuff. But for a while I was addicted to just like being high and catching the serotonin, because I had used drugs and my chemical levels in my brain were low, and so I had to.
You needed to feel what you wanted to feel,
right? And I didn't let myself have that reset time. I didn't know how to self-care myself.
Yeah.
And,
I didn't know how to take care of my mind when I first started psychedelics, which is a problem.
Big problem. You need to know how to like use it in the correct way as a tool and nurse your mind back to
whenever
homeostasis.
When I first started doing psychedelics, I barely even knew how to take care of my physical body. So if I don't know how to take care of my physical body, I sure as fuck wasn't taking care of my mental body, because it's density. You have to go lowest top. So if you say your mind's perfect, but your body is really like you're really like not neglecting it, you're actually not, because it's the whole like dimensional thing, right?
Oh, definitely.
So it's like the problem with that is like when you start doing psychedelics, like in my experience, when I started, obviously I didn't do shrooms for a long time. It was just LSD for me. But I overdid it a fuck ton because I kept going to more raves, and then I wanted to trip even when I wasn't at raves, because a whole much other parts of life would be cool when I'm tripping. And so then it was just like I'm tripping like once a week. Like, no. I cannot believe that I was tripping like once a week for like almost a year, and then like yeah. And then
I never got
way
that
too much for the second year. I was still tripping too much the second year. But at the end of the second year is when I was like, I need to stop taking this and like just like stop like pretty much everything at that point except for like weed for the most part.
And that's when you started really diving into taking care of your body.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, I was like, I did not like
shift.
It was this moment of like,
I guess it was kind of the same for us.
Yeah, because it's like what happens is when you're doing.
I see the pattern.
Yeah, you always see the pattern, bitch. I'm glad you're getting on our wave. But like, that's the thing is when you're doing these substances, I'm gonna be honest, from my experience, even when I was doing these substances spaced out, I still was not comprehending things the way I do now. Now I still do substances like more now, like whatever, but I quit everything but weed and sometimes like a little like small amounts like microdosing of shrooms for like a year, like about a year. Whenever I quit everything, I said I'm never gonna do ever again. That was what my thing I told myself. So I was like, if
that's what you have to do.
Yeah, so I was like, if I think that in a year I'll do them again, I'm just gonna be waiting on that year. And so I was like, I'm never doing these again. I need to fix myself. I lived 21 years completely sober.
Right.
So I'm like, I can do this. I need to figure this back out.
Right.
So when I told myself I was done with them, after a couple months, it was like I started seeing what the drugs were doing without really paying attention. Because when you do them, but they're kind of spaced out, well, what do you think? That spaced outness, what you think is, oh, it's been enough time. But if it hasn't been realistically enough time, what it is that you're craving it because of how much time it's been. So you're just keeping yourself in that addictive loop. Because by the end of your addictive like craving, you're like, I'll just cave and have it one more time.
Right.
And so I kept doing that. And then when I quit for that year, I was like, whoa. Like I didn't realize how much it affected different parts of my body. I didn't realize how much it was affecting my mind. Like it was honestly like really eye-opening in a very crazy way.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize when you're doing the substances, you don't realize what they're doing to you outside of the substances unless you're sober long enough to discover it. And you have to be sober long enough to see what it's doing.
Yep, I have something to say there. So So a couple of months before the pandemic, Brittany and I were like, I really want to kind of separate from the rave group because at this point we had had so many traumatic. We were doing so much drugs, and there were so many traumatic experiences.
A lot of traumatic drug experiences.
And she was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to raves as much. I want to start going on vacations and seeing like nature. Let's go hiking. Let's go camping. And like, so we did that. We made that happen. And like, we stepped away from that. And then the pandemic happened. And
I guess it's perfect timing.
Well, no, because in the beginning, for the first like 2 months, we were tripping like every other week, and we did cocaine like 2 to 3 times a week. I hate to admit that, for like 2 months, to a 2-month period, and like we really did that because it was like nobody could get cocaine, so it stopped selling.
Yeah, and everybody was bored. And that's the thing of the pandemic. That's what happened to me too. Like, I really wasn't trying to go like for 2020 when everything got locked down. At first, it was this is like a little vacation, so everyone was like, let's have fun.
Right.
So everyone was doing substances and just kept going. And people were like,
after like 2 months, we were like burnt potatoes. We were like, yo, all right. And that's when like all the healing started happening. And honestly, probably up until close to a year ago is when I would say we came upon the realization and had the conversation of, wow, we really were addicted to just getting high. And we were just constantly switching from each drug so that we were not addicted to one substance.
Yes.
We weren't addicted, but we were addicted to getting high. And so we came upon that realization, but it took like, what, a year and a half of being sober? Or a year of being sober to realize, just like you. So
it really is eye-opening.
It is.
Because like you kind of, you know you like to get high. You know you like to get fucked up. But you don't realize how much you start to depend on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem when you're unhappy. You look forward to getting fucked up because it's your break from your unhappiness.
Right.
So the problem is we live in a society.
People are going to hate to hear that.
Yeah, they're going to hate to hear it. But it's true. And that's the problem, is that we live in a society where our society is trained to keep us depressed so that we do have these outbursts of wildness that keeps us from these like loops.
Right.
And that's like what like sucks about it. It's like so frustrating.
It's definitely unfortunate. But I do think that, you know, the system is slowly changing. More people are realizing this. And they're working on organically making themselves happy.
Yeah.
And figuring out ways to.
We're definitely getting into the time where people are starting to realize that, like, happiness can be happiness itself is a fleeting emotion for the body. Happiness as an emotion for the mind is a choice and a mindset. That's all it is.
Yep.
And that's really frustrating as someone like me who was so negative, so depressed, such a bitch. I was just like, world sucks. I can never be happy. What even is happy? That sounds like bullshit.
I used to say the world hates me.
Yes. Like such a little prima donna little bitch. I used to be like, the world hates me. It's out to get me. Bitch. There's 7 billion people just on this planet, humans alone. You think the universe is that caught up in your ass?
Literally.
To make your life live in hell for no reason?
And my mom called me out on it one day, and I hate that she called me out. She was like, you know, you saying that is wild and this is happening. And I was like,
when you
she did have some good tidbits. I'll give her that.
I
really did learn some good things from my mom, but there was also a lot of learned behavior.
Everyone's got duality, you know?
There we go.
And happiness in the body is a fleeting emotion. When I thought I was just my body, the first 23 years of my life, I thought my entirety was my body. So all I cared about was what I felt like.
All right.
When you truly realize that you are not the body, and the body is just a part of you, but it is not all of you, then you're able to say, okay, how I feel is part of me, but it's not everything. So that's when you start realizing that, like, the happiness that people are talking about, like, I'm always happy. They're not saying their body always feels happy. They're saying, I'm always choosing to try to be happy.
Right.
It's an actual continual, like, process and work and choice. And it sucks. When I first figured that out, I was pissed.
It takes a lot of work.
I was mad at the universe. I was like, why would you do this? I was like, why would you set this up and I have to do all this work just to be happy?
To change your mindset is difficult.
Yeah, I was like, why would you do this? Like, I have this, my mind is so far from where I want it to be. And that's like, I remember when I first started, like, it's so crazy. I was sitting back yesterday thinking about just like how long it's been and times. And I was just like, it's so crazy to think that like in 2019, when I first started my awakening and how everything started, I think of how my mind was then and how hard it was for me to be positive, how hard it was for me to be nice. I mean, it was like I looked at everything with a judgmental eye. I was one of those people that if I looked at you, might not have voiced it, but I thought if there's something negative to say, my brain thought it because I was a negative person.
Same.
And it just looked for
now I'm finding the beauty in things.
The thing is, this is what I've learned, is what you look for other people or what you're looking for in yourself. So if you're looking for the negatives in them, it's because you only look at the negatives in yourself. So you need to stop being a bitch to yourself. Because when you're obsessed with yourself and you love yourself, you look for the beauty in everyone else because you're like, I'm so beautiful. Everyone else is too. If I'm beautiful and I'm then we're all beautiful.
Right.
But if you hate yourself and you're always being hateful in yourself, like I was always very self-conscious of my weight.
And you'll attract that.
Yeah, it's like you get in your head about these things and then you just project it onto everything else. So that's always just like a weird.
Yep.
Little magnets.
And it's crazy how that works. And like when you start focusing on just like you, yourself, and your energy, and believing that things will come to you and align with you.
It's wonderful to a lot of people that are not on that wave yet, or just choosing not to in this life. They don't like it. A lot of people don't like that. They don't like when you are like that. Like I've had multiple people. Now that I'm very more positive, I'm always just like, oh, the universe provided, no, kind of, and I'm just very like, whatever, and I'm very focused on myself and my energy, and I'm like, as long as I'm meditating, do my thing, I know I'm fine, no matter what. Like I'm totally chill. And people like take that like a different way, and I'm like, no, baby. Society taught me one thing. I'm like, but this is actually like the truth. Like people be mad that you're just like carefree, that you're not as worried as them. And you're like,
I'm just like, all right, baby, be mad.
It wore me out. It wore me out.
Yeah, no, I don't. I stopped giving a damn.
Back to the thing. Well, speaking of substance, let me just go ahead and say fucking nicotine, because I've already hit it multiple times. Here's the thing I fucking hate about nicotine.
I'm allergic to tobacco, but I can smoke nicotine.
My problem with nicotine is that it's just so annoying. And when you really break it down, because it doesn't do that much.
I've quit several times, and I only hit my friends' vapes. I will not lie.
Well, I usually do that. I ended up buying this one because I was hitting Sam's way too much, and I was like, let me just buy them. But that's the problem when I have my hand too much. But it's just an oil fixation. That's why it makes me mad. It's the oil fixation. It's not necessarily like that much of the nicotine itself, but
you can get a zero nic one.
Yeah,
and it'll suck while you're
that is true
losing the addiction. But then after a while, you'll be like, "This is doing nothing. Why am I hitting it? I can't breathe as well."
Yeah,
and you'll be like, "Because I went to jiu-jitsu after when we weren't smoking weed and we were just smoking the zero nic vape. I went to jiu-jitsu and I was like,
it felt a lot, yeah.
I felt like I had COVID. I was like, I can't do
this.
Let
me tell you something. I bought this vape, and every time I buy a vape, I keep seeing ads about quitting vaping so you can like breathe better. And it's only when I have a vape do I see these commercials, and I'm like, well, you I know.
You better not.
I know. I'm like, I know. I keep deep breathing. I don't have them all the time. I know. Okay.
You got this. I believe.
But nicotine is annoying simply because it is one of the most addictive substances in human history.
It is very addictive. It's extremely difficult to quit nicotine.
It is literally, I think it might be considered the most addictive substance, if not. I think it's caffeine or nicotine.
Caffeine, I think, is number one, but I think nicotine is probably right under it.
Caffeine's in everything. That's why we give caffeine to kids, so everyone's hooked as a toddler. It's a lifelong addiction.
You know what substance I want to talk about? Mm-hmm. I want to talk about the MDMA usage. That's
heavily overused, and it's concerning.
It is, because most people don't have no idea the science side of it and what it's doing to your brain and your body.
Yeah.
Okay, so realistically, when you use MDMA, MDA, a substance like that depletes your serotonin. It takes like 4 to 6 months, depending on your brain and your body, for that serotonin to replenish. So you have people that are taking MDMA.
On that, it's worse than that. Because, okay, yes, if you take MDMA one night, it's going to take 4 to 6 months for your body to naturally restore your serotonin levels pretty much back to normal.
Right.
Varies from a person. However, chronic users, which are people that are using them,
just like every weekend, every other weekend,
every other week, whatever. Those people, when they've done like testing and stuff, they're showing concern. Yeah, they're showing concerns because when they've done testing like on rats and stuff, their results for people that, like, using it a lot and then like stopping was that once they stopped, the actual like the transmitters that transmits serotonin decreases activity and it takes increasingly longer to come back. So the more you do it, the longer it takes because your body's literally slowing down how to make serotonin.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever use that drug again.
It's really scary. Like, I feel like maybe in the right environment, right dose.
Only if I needed it to heal some PTSD, but like
certain things, it's just not. I've had too many bad experiences.
It's not worth a fun night for like 6 months of recovery.
That is what changed me with substances. That's what changed where like
when you realize how long the recovery actually is, you're like, no thanks.
Like acid, LSD. That is way longer than people want to pretend. Like people,
it's a few weeks.
Yes, and people act like, oh, it's just like a day or two. No, it's not. Maybe until you don't want to sleep the day away, but you're still recovering, and that's
maybe so you don't feel like brain soup. But yeah,
exactly. And the problem with that is a lot of people do think acid specifically really does concern. I mean, Molly concerns me, and MDMA like really does concern me. But the reason why acid concerns me so much is how easy it is to get it in store. It's just a piece of paper with this drop on it, and it's so easy to get places, and it's cheap.
Yeah,
it's so cheap. Maybe $10 for one tab. That's so cheap. Some people don't do a full tab. Some people only do one, and if they want one of that, it's only 10. I mean, think about any other substance. A lot of them cost more than that.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize the effects that they really have because they're just like, oh, these are so cool.
Right.
Like Molly and how it feels in your body. Like, oh my God, it feels so good. I feel so happy. And then you just want to feel that again, so you want to do the drug again. But it's like, if you're only getting that happiness from that drug, you're unfortunately making your body not know how to make it outside of that drug.
Right. No, and it's rough because that's where the balance comes in, because I also think that acid is such a key tool.
I have a really possibly skewed opinion, but I believe, like, I won't say every substance, because there's a lot of human-made shit that was bad. There are human-made things that were good, but there are a lot of human things that are bad. But there are a lot of substances out there that are deemed bad drugs that I don't think are bad drugs. They're just used in excess. If you want to go into, I mean, they've been used. You're telling me these substances have been used for thousands of years, but they're bad for you. I don't believe that. Like, I don't believe it's bad for you. Like, I mean, even if you go into like cocaine, cocaine's the best drug to do. So you just do all the time.
But in moderation.
But in moderation, I don't think that. Like, I think there are positive.
You have to let yourself recover, though, because that messes with your dopamine levels in your brain.
Yeah.
And so you won't feel as happy.
Yeah, that was me afterwards, but I hate that.
Yeah.
Because, like, I hadn't really, like, done much. I just did, like, little butts here and there, like, and like, that was the first time, like, I'd really, like, been on it, like, and after that, it was literally, like, I didn't want to do anything but sleep for, like, a week and a half. And I was like, dude, I have no desire for anything. I was like, I don't like that. And I was like, oh, that's what it is. Like, it's cocaine. I had so much dopamine hits for those days. Yeah. Like, and then I go home and then I'm like,
I saw this quote and it was like, it's not drugs that are bad, but it's people's relationships with them that are bad. Also, and that was pretty powerful because it's really balance. Balance.
There's this dude on TikTok, and I do not know his name thing, but he often talks about, like, codes, like how you can talk to your mind and codes, teach it new things.
Right.
And one of the things he was talking about is when you're in a situation, it was about a situation specifically, like saying, like, this is a neutral event, I'm about to react, was what he said. And I think that's great. However, that statement goes for everything. Everything that exists is neutral. You choose which deem you want to go with it. So any substance, heroin. I don't think heroin is by default just bad. That's not duality. So there has to be something that could be. There are different people have done different forms of what heroin is and use different ways. I mean, that's their thing.
For extreme pain usage, like chronic pain and stuff.
Yeah, we made morphine to pretend to be heroin to help with pain.
Right.
It's literally just legal heroin. It's morphine.
And, like, there are instances, like, when you break an arm, yeah, it's pretty nice to be able to have some heroin, because other than that, it's like, dude, knock me out.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to be alive right now.
Like, breaking your femur, I can't imagine, like, not having some drugs to aid
people
in that.
Who, like, break, like, their, like, ribs and, like collarbones, I'm like, honestly, put me in a medically induced coma until it's back. I don't want to be awake.
Yeah. It's like a common thing in jiu-jitsu. It's like ribs popping or something. I'm like, I hope that doesn't happen.
God, that's so scary.
Yeah,
because it's like so hard to heal because you're breathing.
Yeah, that's rough. But so there's drugs, like everything has its duality. So there's the good side and the bad. The overuse of them
and improper use,
overuse, and uneducated, ignorant use.
Yes,
come on, babies, y'all gotta be better.
What gets me is. And I've said this since before I ever started substances. I never thought I would do any when I first started them. And to this day, I still say this. If you do not know what the drug is, what it's supposed to do, what are possible side effects, what to do if you have too much and you're overdosing, you shouldn't take it. If you're not educated on it, why are you doing it? Because, like, I'm just going to be like this.
I've looked up every drug that I've taken before.
I researched it. I want to know about it because if I gave you a berry and it was red and I was like, I got this berry from the woods. Do you want to eat it? You would ask me about it, right? You wouldn't just grab it and put it in your mouth because it could kill you. It could be a poisonous berry. That's real out there.
Right.
But if you offer, hey, you want to take this pill? What is it? Like, take a second.
I have honestly never been that person, but I know plenty.
I know a lot of people that have. I have been the one of, like, I don't know what it is, and I'll just pop my mouth and ask what it is. But, like, I've definitely been where it's just like I didn't, like, you could question a little more. Like, even in regards of, like, very important is testing your shit. It's very scary.
Yes, test your drugs. There's so much fentanyl going around.
A lot of X pills, I really don't fuck with because unless you're gonna test them, don't fuck with them. They're usually cut, and they're usually fucking meth, and that's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, the one and single only time I, ingested meth was when I did not know it was meth. It was X pills.
Yep.
And then the next thing you know, I couldn't sleep for 2 days, and I was not a fan of that. I was,
like, this is not.
And it wasn't like a roll. It didn't feel good. Totally it was like we were all just like kind of sort of having a good time. It was like mediocre, and we were doing crackhead things. Like we went and ran, when we lived in heaven, and we went and ran to the neighbor's yard that didn't have a fence and jumped on their trampoline and played on their little kids' swing set. Like what? At like 2 in the morning.
I got on a sex bender once on accident. We did that. It was an X pill. I thought. It wasn't. The only thing I really remember, like, the end it went bad. It went south. But
why do I feel like I know this?
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, you do. But before it went south, it was just very sex crazy because it was like just messed the fuck out. And like I literally just remember like when he stopped because he was like, all right, I need a break. I cried.
Oh my god.
And I was like, something's wrong with me. What is going on? And that's when I was like, I don't think this is my why am I like this? This is so weird.
One time I asked my friend that she told me she had been, this is like my childhood friend, she told me she had been using meth for like the last few months, and I was like what is it like? Like, what do you do? Because I was very uneducated at this point. I had just heard the word, didn't know really.
Yeah, I didn't know much for a while.
Didn't know it was like a stimulant type drug. It had no idea.
Didn't know that, okay.
And she looked at me and she was like, fuck. I was like, that's what you do on meth? She's like, yeah, you just fuck. You just want to fuck. Or you'll hold your partner at gunpoint.
I was like, It's a wild duality with meth.
I'm good, homie, and I was like, I'll never do that drug.
I always say I would never do it. I was supposed to say when I
until you get lied to
yeah.
or given it.
When I realized it, I remember sitting there and having this like moment with myself where I was like, this is one of the 3 drugs I mean, there's other drugs there was always 3 drugs growing up I said I would never do. There's most 3 that were popular that I knew of. And so I was like, I think I did that. And I had really sat with it. And I was like, it was really confusing because I was high on it. So my body was like, this feels great. This is so good. Oh my God. Like, I feel amazing right now. And then my mind was like, oh my God. If I wouldn't have known, like if I wouldn't have been educated as I am right now with the stuff I've done, if I had started X pills before ever doing any other drug, I would have got hooked on meth because I would have just been looking for what I thought was X. And then once you figure out it's meth, if you're hooked on it, you just go to meth.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, oh, this is creepy because there's reason people say like it is, of all the drugs I've ever purposely or accidentally consumed, I will say I remember the body feeling being one of the best like feelings, like with like pleasure than most drugs. Well, a lot of drugs don't really make me that sexual. Like I might get touchy, like, but I don't really like being like too sexual. It's too much. It's overstimulating.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like with meth, it was overstimulating, but it was like, oh, this is so good. And I was just like, oh my God, I hate that. I hate that the body is doing that. Yeah, I was like, ooh.
These meat suits or something.
Yeah, they are. But that's why it is really like important to test your stuff. Like, obviously, like important to get from people that are reliable. But even really then, there are some people that sell to their friends that don't test before they sell.
Oh,
to their friends, which is unfortunate.
Dare we even talk about the ketamine usage? Most of that stuff is not even ketamine. Like, a lot of the K sold on the street is not actual medical ketamine. Like, it's 90% cut. And I definitely am a huge believer in the medical usage of ketamine because I have friends that have gone through the program and it's helped them tremendously. It's great for depression and all kinds of things if used correctly in a medical setting. But people that are using it every weekend, every other weekend, in the medical setting, the sessions are like every 3 months. It's very spaced out. You're not supposed to use it in the amounts that people are using.
Yeah, people are also like starting like lines.
And it's the same thing as, the MDMA and the Coke. It's doing stuff to your brain with the chemicals, and you're not feeling as good, or you're extra aggressive, agitated after using it. That's what I find most with with that one. Really, because I really had a very short-lived experience. I probably basically only did it for like a month, and I only used it like twice. But
I was like, I have a handful of experiences. So I have a handful of experiences with ketamine, and then I have an experience that was ketamine, but I would believe that it was ketamine cut with fentanyl because I tried it and I felt how it felt after, and I was like, I don't know about that one.
I don't like that.
I don't like that at all. And a lot of things come with fentanyl. It's really scary. I was talking to this like new friend, and
Xanax especially is cut with fentanyl.
Yeah. Well, his thing that he was like, yeah, I was hooked on Roxy's for a year. Turns out they were fent.
Yep.
And so you're just like,
oh, I could.
Yeah. And so it's like he's like at least people are getting hooked on fent from multiple types of sources. And fent, I don't know enough about fent to inform anybody of what could be a good use for it. So just stay away from it or do your own research.
Don't do it. It's probably one of the worst things that humans have created.
It's really doing a lot of bad people. It really just sucks to see so many young people die from fent.
Yeah.
Accidental fent. It's what kills me. Is that they don't know that they're doing that. I mean, if you go into like Mac Miller.
Yeah.
He was just trying to take some Xanax.
And that was literally like
last Phil. Like he's thinking, I'm gonna take some Xanax and just get zanned out and chill and just be to myself. And that was it.
And so many people are still mourning his death.
Yeah. And he's a celebrity who you would think would have the means like the cleanest shit and da-da-da, but he probably assumed that, didn't test it. And that's the scary part, is like you don't know.
People are like, I've been getting from the same person every time. Well, it's like you don't know who they're getting it.
It's like, how close are you to your dealer?
Yeah.
Is it your dealer or is it your friend? Because there's a difference. Like, because you can be a good dealer, but they're not really your friend. A dealer can make you feel like a friend because they're so happy when they see you because you're giving them money. Right. And they can enjoy seeing you, but that doesn't mean they view you as a friend. So, like, there is a different level to it. So you really have to... It's one of those things where humans, we do love to not hold ourselves accountable. I include myself in that. Like, there's some scenarios where we don't want to hold ourselves accountable. That's one of those things where, like, it's your responsibility to test your stuff. That's what's unfortunate. Anytime I've ever done something where it was like, I knew after, I was like, well, it's on me. Like, I should have tested it before I took it. And I'm just like...
That's how I ended up, accidentally doing heroin one time, which is on the list of drugs I said I would never do.
I'm
but
so scared of
in a painkiller, and I was like, all right, cool. I was like, that was not... Oh, it was so uncomfortable.
I've always been... When I was younger, like I said, I always said crack, meth, and heroin. Those drugs I knew of never, like, bad. And I was like, I would never do those. Those are too far. So if I did need any substances, it wouldn't be those.
Right.
That's why, like, meth freaked me out. But even meth was not as much as heroin. Heroin was the one drug that I was like, I will never do. I don't know why when I was a kid, I was like, if I ever do that, I'd probably get hooked. But as a kid, I was so sober. I used to
heroin addict in a past life.
I literally used to drink orange juice and pretend it was alcohol to get fake drunk. But at that moment, I was like, dude, if I ever tried heroin, I'd probably die of heroin.
Can't do it.
Like, I just was convinced. I don't know why. So I can't even imagine having the actual experience. Because the actual meth experience freaked me out because I was like, ew. I like the feeling of meth, and that freaks me out. Yeah. Because I didn't want to like the feeling.
Right.
So I'm like, there's so much bad that comes with it. So I'm just like, I can't ever try. So
like, let me not.
Yeah, my mom used to say, if you don't try, you never know if you like it. There's some things you should do that for. There's some things you just don't need to know if you like it. Yeah. Some things, try avocado. Don't try crack.
Get you some avocado.
Don't try crack. Try stop.
Try avocado ice cream. Very good. Anyways, let's talk about the spiritual ego. So, what is the spiritual ego?
Spiritual ego, I guess the way I could explain it is like, all right, you have your ego before you start your spiritual journey. This is your ego. You start your journey. Now you're going into your journey. As you're going into your journey, just because you've had that, like, ego death, doesn't mean the ego's dead. The ego never actually dies. It, like, permanently, right? It can die, but it immediately comes right back. As long as you're alive, your ego will come right back. You need it to be in this life.
It's there to protect you.
It's your fucking character. It's your role in the universe in this life. Like, that's who you are. So your ego will still be there. Spiritual ego typically falls when someone first starts their spiritual journey and starts getting really into their spiritual journey and then is convinced that they have totally got rid of their ego and they know everything right. They know everything, they've hacked all the spiritual things. They know the answer to everything in the universe and they are above others. They're such high vibe. They can't go around low vibe people anymore because I'm too high vibe.
They can't be around it. They want to disassociate from
and
society,
be away from everything.
And that's, when you see just like people just like go and do whatever, not caring about anything. But part of our role in this existence is to integrate the spirituality with our current society. So it's like when you get people that are just like so negative about everything because they see all the negativity in the world, and it's like, you got the negative glasses on, baby. Like, you're stuck in that spiritual ego where how everything could be better, where it should be, what things should be like and could be like, but it's not there, and so that you're basically angry about it. You're pissed off, and so you're choosing to see things, but really you just have to appreciate things for the way that they are and what they grow into, because, for example, you have cars, and like in excess, cars are not good for the environment, and they create a lot of traffic, and then we have to pave a lot of roads and this, that, and the other. And so, you can hate cars if you're stuck in a spiritual ego, but then, you have to bring yourself to the level and perspective of cars are very useful. They get you from point A to B. You wouldn't be able to work and do a lot of things and hang out with your friends and freely go places if you didn't have a car.
Imagine traveling without a car, like just going to like the state over.
I thought about that earlier. I was like, can I imagine like not having
Walking
a vehicle and just be stuck in my house
and
and
having here in New Orleans by foot. An hour drive, imagine that by foot.
That would take a day.
Like
so there's balance in everything, and getting caught in that spiritual ego where you think
it can just be, it's that whole theory where people, and I understand
it can be this utopia, but we're not all there yet as a oneness, a one consciousness. Like,
I think that a big problem is when you look at things through your filter of judgment or fear or whatever it is that you're currently viewing life through, whatever that vibe is, that everything is being transmitted through that vibration to you. The problem is how like skewed people get very fast, because a lot of people, when you're in this realm of looking at everything with judgment and fear, when you look at how things could be and how you want them to be, and you don't see that, you see they're not there, you don't see how they can get there, and you get angry, you get to the point where you're like, well, fuck this, like, I'm just not gonna care about this at all.
And you're not present.
Mm-hmm. Which is where, like, I have this theory that when you're in this life, you are constantly going between two realms with two different entities. You have your physical body, the physical life, and then your mind's realm when you sleep. So when you're awake, you're in the physical realm, and when you're asleep, you're in your mind's realm. They're two different realms. They're two valid realities, which is why you have to balance and not sleep too much or not sleep too little versus being awake, because you need both. Both need to feel like they're being able to live in their reality, of course, is my theory. So, yeah, it's an interesting theory there. But how it is cool is your spirituality, for the most part, is your mind's realm. You know, it's a lot. Like, there are physical things you can do for spirituality, but it's a lot of the mind's work, intention, and stuff like that.
Right.
And so the thing is, when people get on these spiritual ego like kicks, and shit, I was about ready to pack up, pick out of this world. I was ready to by myself. Honestly, I was about to go just, I don't know how I was going to do it, but I was going to find a little house in the woods and just do my thing every day. So bad. I was like, I don't care.
No.
I don't care about none of this. I don't want to do this. I just don't want to do it. Well, I was 2020. That's all I wanted to do. Yep. I was so done. And when I reflect on that now, I'm just like, dude, like, when you go to sleep, you're already living in your reality. When you're awake, you are living in a reality you're creating, but it's co-conscious. You have other people in that reality.
Right.
So if one reality, you already have a chunk of reality that is purely yours, you can't bring that into your waking life too, because then you're destroying everyone else's shit. Like, this reality is meant to be cohabited and co-created, because you get your full creation by yourself when you're in your own mind, you're meditating, you're sleeping. That's when you get your reality, your everything. When you're awake, it's supposed to be this co-created reality, but because people don't believe that,
I feel like consciousness is split up into a bunch of 100 billion people.
Yeah, it's like
when you're in dream, you are the one consciousness.
Yeah, it's like, yeah,
that's a good theory.
Yeah, like so it's a very like
very interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's how it's one of the many ways to think about shit. I think about shit weird, I don't know. But I just feel like it's one of those things that, like, the world is so bad. And things there will always be dualities. So there's always going to be bad things and bad people. The universe has to view every perspective. Therefore, if this wonderful angel of a human exists, then this devil of a human must exist too for that person to exist. It's the duality. The universe wants to view all reality. It's all neutral to them. We view bad and good, but the universe it's just a perspective.
Right.
It doesn't think about it like that. Like, it's not meant to be like that. It's personalized while we view it like that. So people think because there's going to be bad things, the world's always going to be shitty, but that's not true. And I feel like the people believing that, and people honestly watching the fucking bullshitted ass news, adds to our reality being so shit because we're only seeing the shit, so everyone believes it's shitty, so it just keeps getting shittier and shittier because everyone believes it's getting shittier and shittier.
Right.
There's not enough people that believe that we can go get better. So
literally, most of the things that people fear will never touch them. I hope you guys liked our takes and opinions on substances and our little stories and experiences that we've had with them. Remember to use in moderation, test your shit,
take care of your body before you give it a drug.
Please eat,
drink,
eat
water,
a meal,
stretch a little, like please
do some yoga.
Nothing hurts me more than when someone's like bragging
make
that
it a whole
they're out
thing.
and they're like drinking alcohol. And like, I haven't ate today. I'm like, you want a sandwich? Like, please
have a whole preparation. Like, if you know you're gonna be drinking, be like, oh my god, I'm gonna eat some good food today.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna do some yoga because I know I'm gonna be messing up my body dancing.
Like, you gotta do it like that because substances damage your body a lot more when you don't have food and water in your body to help absorb them.
Right.
So
do well in your body so you can feel better when you're old and wrinkly. So
we can be 90 in the strip club.
Exactly.
That's what we're
talking about. You can party and be kicking. But we'll see y'all next time. Thanks for joining us again on the Ethereal Podcast. Love and light.